Oxford's 3-game unbeaten run has come to an end, and it's come in the most oxygenated way possible, losing to an incredibly out-of-form Swansea City. Welcome back to Walking the London Road. Connor with us this week. Because he's going to need to get a lot off his chest from the past couple of weeks. Before we dive too much into it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Really helps us out in the algorithm, and it could really boost our spirits from, what's going to be another therapy edition. Cheers, lads. We're, less than 6 months into the new rebrand, and we've got our third therapy session of the season. Thanks very much. Before we dive into whatever the fuck that was on Saturday, quick touch on, obviously we've just had, not half an hour ago, the FA Cup third round draw. Of all the sides we could have got, KR Salford or Holloway Scum, who are going to be playing each other for the third time this season. Grimsby have got a really good draw. Barnsley going up to Liverpool. We've got another trip to Stadium MK. Connor, I'm not enthused by another trip to Stadium MK, but at least a different day out.
Literally any of those clubs, including Grimsby, I would have been happy with. Like, literally any of them. It's not MK Dons. Played them too many times. It's a soulless goal. What we were just discussing before we came on here, what our allocation would be. And then we took a step back and thought, actually, whatever our allocation is, that the attendance will probably be less than that. Like, there's, especially with how we're playing in the league at the moment, I'll be surprised if we take four figures, just over four figures.
So yeah, that's we've got that to look forward to. I mean, the only positive I can see out of that is that if we were to get through, I know it's obviously not guaranteed of what happened last year in the FA Cup, then some of the Championship sides would have taken each other out, and we might be more likely to get a Premier League team. But we first got to get past fucking MK. Right, let's get the therapy started then. After picking up some good points, 5 points from a possible 9, 4 of those against sides, doing really well in the division in Ipswich and Middlesbrough. And we knew this was going to happen. I think I just mentioned to a Swansea fan in the days leading up to it. I was like, we're doing charity work in Wales this season. We're giving sides their first, in the case of Wrexham, their first home win of the campaign, or in this instance, helping Swansea end the horrific string of losses. So this was always going to go this way, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. We met each other before the game inside the ground, and I went up to you, and what did we say to each other? This absolutely stinks of 2-0 Swansea, and that's exactly what it was. And because every fan in that away end who had their head screwed on right saw that this was coming, and that's exactly what happened. And it hurts even more because Swansea weren't that good. We were just the worst of two poor sides.
Yeah. We'll get onto that in due course. Obviously, like we always do, let's have a quick look at the lineup that Gary Rowett deployed. And I believe this was unchanged from the win against Ipswich. So, went into that game thinking, this is a good sign. Starting to get a bit of consistency of lineup, and they put in a horrific performance. I don't think there's too much that can be said for most of the players on the pitch. Any bright spark for you from any of the players that featured on Saturday?
What starting or came on? I thought that if we're looking at the whole and came on, I think of the starting lineup, I think Long's probably the only one that comes out with any credibility whatsoever. When when Lancashire came on, I thought that he offered something a bit different, which we know that Mark Harris doesn't do. Again, Harris looking isolated and Lancashire looking like more of a goal threat when he had deliveries put into him, but it was very much 4s and 5s across the board, Sam, if I'm honest. If that, there are some in there that deserved a 2 or a 3. It was that poor of a showing.
I'll give a shout for Ole Romane. There was a bit of discussion on this from disagreement with a mate of mine, but I thought he looked very bright. Obviously has a good effort saved by Lawrence Vigouroux, causing problems for Swansea, obviously drawing a couple of fouls. He was that, he's that big quite bulky, but still very good with the ball at his feet type of creator that game really needed. It's a shame that I mean, to be fair, even if we had got a goal back, I think that would have been the most of it. I mean, I think I said the exact same after Wrexham. We could have been playing till we had to travel to Blackburn on Tuesday night and not scored a goal.
Yeah, well, funny that we could go to Blackburn on Tuesday night, score 2 goals, and then have the game called off. That would just be Oxford United luck at the moment.
Yeah, we'll get onto that because honestly, it's ridiculous. So let's just get rid of that, and
we're going to address the elephant in the room.
We'll come to that a bit later on. So obviously, the 2 goals. First one, it's very much how's your luck, because the first goal is Jamie Cumming makes a right handful of that ball in the air, completely misses the catch, and then Stamanic is there to put it in at the near post, and then I mean the second goal, there's literally, you can't do anything about. It's a fantastic volley on the edge of the area, right in the top corner. No complaints on that second one. I don't think any keeper is saving that.
No, but I will just offer a counterpoint to that second goal. That again, second game in a row, we've had a ball that's headed out and it's only just gone as far out as the edge of the box, and there's been a man on the edge of the box lined up to take a shot. That's really the only criticism I can give that, because it's goal of the season's probably been scored right there. It's good when every single Swansea player literally has their hands on their head, or they fall into the floor, or they're just in shock because of how good it was. And with Swansea's first goal, I think that you and I both have stuck up for Jamie Cumming a lot in the past season and this season, but the mistakes are just becoming too much, and you wonder where is that player from last season that was so pivotal and in the running for or was a top contender along with Kieran Brown for player of the season. Like, where's he gone? That's not to say that he hasn't been big this season, but just the mistakes are just coming in far too often.
I think just on that, you're right. And I think it's more the case of the errors are coming so close together. Like last season, there was a couple. Obviously, the one that kind of sticks right at the forefront of my mind is the one against Hull, where he lets it in so easily, is near post. But so many, he could go the rest of the campaign without a single error, which is, is entirely possible. We know the quality of goalkeeper that Jamie Cumming is. But like you say, it's the fact that so many are in such a short space of time is kind of making us sit and think, hang on a minute, what's going on with Jamie? I mean, it's quite possible. It's just a case of that the entire squad is playing shit. What's another player playing arse to add to the mix?
I know, yeah. And then I'm not sure about you, but with what you've just said there, it makes you wonder if it's becoming a bit of a confidence thing, because, last season, especially towards the back end, even though it wasn't pretty, that there was still some elements of a strong, sturdy defence. And whether, we're considerably weaker at the back for some reason or another than we were to last season, whether that's just completely knocked his confidence and that he doesn't have any trust in his back line.
I don't think it's helped the fact that there's not been as much defensive chop and change as I thought we would have had by this point of the campaign. But, you've got injury issues affecting Hiddo Turavest, obviously Greg Lee, international duty, Ben Davis, Kieran Brown, defenses thrive when you've got the same 5 players, if you're playing a 4 at the back, playing for a stretch of 5 or 6 games on the trot. Whereas we've had to kind of make slight alterations due to injury issues. I think we've had like 2 or 3 game runs, but then not that extra bit of fitness to kind of really start to make a proper defensively solid unit.
Yeah, and I mean, to have a successful team and your foundation of a successful team, you need to have like a consistent backline. And I remember, you try not to remember much of what Carl Robinson said, but one of the things that he said that was true was that during a game and during a run, you want to try and not alter your backline as much as possible. You want them to form a relationship, and even during the game, you don't really want to, change it unless you absolutely have to, or see if you need to go from a back four to a back three, or back three to a back four, depending on how the game's going. But yeah, you know that you're in a bit of trouble when you have to chop and change, and you have to chop and change with players, and that wouldn't, as we said, a lot of that isn't all Rowett's fault. Injuries, you know, like there has been to Curry this season, to Spencer, and then with Brown at the start of the season and trying to find cover. And we brought in Davies. Why he hasn't had a bit more game time, I don't know, but I'm sure that we'll get onto that as well, because I think there might be a spell coming up now where to be counterintuitive to what I've just said, we might have to change it up a little bit. I don't know.
So the Ben Davies one is, I've been told by someone inside the club that what happened was, obviously he came in, and then just as Kieran Brown was coming back from his knock, Ben Davies picked up a knock of his own. So it pretty much kind of set him back in contention for featuring in the matchday 11s. If you know, because Kieran Brown, like you said, you know, the quality of the partnership that he and Hellick formed last season, Rout was always going to go back to that. And yeah, it's really unfortunate with Ben Davies, because you know the couple of appearances he's had, he's looked all right in defence. Obviously, got a deflected goal taken away from him on his first home start, if I remember rightly. But we'll get on to more of kind of the player performances overall in a minute. I'd want to quickly touch on Sparky, because I know last week Will and I gave him plaudits for kind of the way he bounced back from the confident shooting performance at Norwich with his goal against Ipswich, and his overall performance I thought was quite good when Ipswich came to the Castad. Like you said, Sparky was completely isolated, and not all of that is his fault, but there is the occasional run that I think he's trying to be too helpful, in the sense that he's going wide to try and take the ball and bring others into play, but that means he's getting in Krastev's way, it means he's getting in Mills's way, Luke Harris, etc.
I think you can definitely see when he went off, when Lancashire came on in the second half, centre halves feared Lancashire a lot more than they did Sparky. And that's so sad, because I know that because I believe that he's a Swansea supporter, and I know that he would have wanted to get a goal against Swansea.
So he was born in Swansea, but he's a Cardiff supporter apparently.
Oh, that is horrendous. God, imagine being born in Oxford and turn out to be a Swindon fan. You'd be disowned from the city, wouldn't you? Yeah, but either way, I know he would have loved to have got a goal against them, but you could definitely tell the difference, as I say, when Lancashire came on with the centre half. Swansea looked, you know, a lot more fearful. And with Sparky up top on Saturday, as you say, not all of it was totally down to him, because there was just nothing, like no deliveries going in whatsoever. I believe there was one opportunity from where we were sitting. It looked like that if he just got his touch under control a little bit more, he would have been through one-on-one, and that was probably the only highlight of the game, which was about 5 minutes in for him. And it was actually quite sad, I think, when he got taken off about 60 minutes, that not only were the home fans cheering, Oxford fans were cheering that he went off as well.
Yeah, that's obviously not the first time we've heard that with Sparky in the Championship. His only fans applauding or just cheering, I should say, him going off, instead of, you know, giving the respect for him, you know, because I've said time and time again, runs his absolute arse off. You know, you can't deny that, but like you say, it's, you know, I think it bounced off his knee, the chance you're referring to, you know, last year against Watford, you know, bounced off his shin and he couldn't recover for it. It's just you know, when you're a striker out of form, there's nothing goes your way. And we thought that was maybe turning after the Ipswich game. Let's get onto the conversation that I think the entire fan base is having right now. The conversation we've had in the group chat, and about Mr. Rowett's position, because I think look, we should say first off, at the minute, he is not going to get sacked, because we've just come off the back of 3 unbeaten, and you know, that kind of form, it will keep him in a job. That's the first thing to say. Second thing to say, as we've said time and time again, the football is shit. We were told it was going to be shit when he first walked in the door. And there's a few other kind of bits and pieces I'll add on to that as we go through. Connor, you've now, if I'm right, completely turned. You were, along with me, asking the question, who do we bring in if we sat around? But now you are in the camp of he needs to leave, aren't you?
Yeah, what's the point of a mind if you can't change it, Sam? I saw enough after Norwich. I think I learned my lesson as well. After KR, I was very resistant to change, and then I think my mind changed when I was too late. And I think by that point, I was too far gone in my own stubborn ways. But you take a look back, and other fans have said this as well, and quite active and prominent fans online. We were promised, or we were told that we were going to get shit football, as you say, and we were willing to accept that as long as the results came. The results haven't come. Now, Rowett, you can put it down to the team as well, because the squad is just simply not good enough on the whole, as it's proving at the moment for Championship football. But the buck, unfortunately, starts with Rowett. I just can't wrap my head around, when he first came in, our squad was nowhere near as good on paper as it is now, and some of the football we were playing was absolutely scintillating, albeit it was against a Cardiff and a Plymouth side. And then even when we went away to Millwall, we put in an absolutely superb away performance. Then when I think to even some of the performances in the second half of last season, when I think that we knew that we had a good chance of staying up and we just had to play dogged football, now it's even worse. And what epitomised it for me was going to Norwich, a team that had lost every single game away from home. For the first 10, 15 minutes or so, I thought, okay, we looked all right. But after that, we just absolutely capitulated. And what happened was that Norwich, they went out and they must have got their away kit on and turned into Brazil, because they made us look like mugs for about 60 minutes of that game. Mm-hmm. And then we're celebrating getting a 1-1 draw against a team who've been absolutely gash all season. And then now even against Swansea City, a team that have lost 5 in a row, we are that team that goes and breaks the duck, as we always do. And I thought that the game against Ipswich, we will put in a little cheeky dig of you still route out, but my view was that it was just papering over the cracks, and one swallow doesn't make a summer.
Right. So a couple of points on that. The first one is, and this is a conversation I've had with a couple of mates, especially after Saturday, is one of the most confusing things is this team's ability to up their game and get results against sides in the top half of the division, but they can't do it against sides around us, which just baffles me. And the other part of it is that, so on that, Gary Rowett sets up against the sides higher in the division in better places than us to frustrate them, catch them on the break. He then does the same against sides around us when we'd expect, okay, maybe we can play a bit better football. Now, again, I think I mentioned this last week. Our record against is still points against top half opposition 13, points against bottom half opposition 5. So there's something about this team, and yes, the buck ultimately stops with the manager. He's the one that loses his job. But we do need to look at these players and go, he's deploying the same lineup. And, we'll take the Ipswich to Swansea, because Ipswich was a fantastic, gritty performance. Why is that 11 unable to put in the same kind of performance, in the same kind of basic effort against Ipswich to then go to the game against Swansea? It doesn't make sense to me why this squad isn't like they are. The consistent thing this season is how inconsistent they are,
and that might be why diplomatic. It sounds diplomatic when he comes out. Why Rowett? He must be tearing his hair out, but still, ultimately, that's up with him. How can you get them up for Ipswich, but you're not getting them up for Swansea? How can you get them up for Bristol City, but you couldn't get them up for whatever the next game was? But I'm sure that we lost anyway. How it's not. See, he's getting me speechless. And the it's just the same again, Sam. Every time, like you just know when his substitutions are coming. You know what kind of subs he's going to make, and then it epitomised it at the weekend, like bringing Greg Lee on when we had other attacking players on there. Albeit, like for example, you could have brought on a Tyler Goodrum, even a Bradshaw if you're going to stick three up front to try and make an aggressive substitution, make something aggressive, show that you want to go and win the game. I know that you're probably going to say, well, he did in terms of bringing on Romney, bringing on Lancashire, bringing on a couple other players out wide, but it's, yeah, I think that at this moment, my mind is quite set that we probably are this, after Sheffield Wednesday, probably are the worst team and are going to get relegated. And probably, in my mind, I'm probably already mentally preparing for League One because I don't think he will be managing an Oxford United team in League One. I should also say, by the way, that I want to try and be as balanced as possible, not be just straight in that Rowett, your football is shit, get out of my club. I want to try and be objective about it. That we've also said, we've also both alluded to the squad that like we are sure that Tohir, he wants to spend the money and wants to spend as much capital as he can. But at the moment, financial rules and PSR or whatever rules and FFP rules in the EFL won't allow it because of we're not making our own income and most of it is going to that prick. You can believe that out, Mark.
Yeah.
At the, that owns the stadium. Like that's why we can't spend our money because most of it is happening to go to him. We're not creating enough organically, and that's why we need to stay in the Championship for the next few seasons while the stadium is being built so we can start spending more on players and bringing in players of a greater quality.
So I just want to touch on what you said about the substitutes because this is something that did confuse me in the sense of the 2 games before Swansea, Rowett was praised for making 4 substitutions, all attacking, and they got the job done. Shemi comes on, scores the winner. Krasev comes on in the Norwich game, gets the equaliser when we were wank. Jack Curry could not finish that game. He was getting run ragged. It was the right decision to bring Greg Lee on. It was Hideo Turaves bringing him on as on the right wing. Possibly not, but his deliveries were better than the rest of the squad have been up to that point. Look, I'm by no way saying that Rowett has to stay. But we've said it previously. We're not going to get a manager with more experience at competing at this end of the Championship than Gary Rowett, and that's a fact. I'll ask the question that you and I have repeated a couple of times, Connor. If Rowett is sacked, who comes in? And some people try and deflect that. I know you won't, but some will try and deflect. Well, that's not our job. Well, you've got to answer the question. If you're saying Rowett needs to be sacked, you need to have a solution to that problem.
Yeah, no, I do agree, and I hate it because it happened over Robinson as well. When I was pushing back quite strongly on social media, saying, "Who are you going to bring in?" I would get that it's not my job, or I'm a paying customer, and I absolutely hate that response because I learned it in my own. In my own professional life, and I got a very, very heavy slap on the wrist. You can't just say that something should change when you create another problem and say that I don't have to deal with it because it's not my job. Like, I think us football fans sometimes like to think that we don't live in the real world and we just expect things on a plate. Unfortunately, it just doesn't work that way. And I am fully aware, by the way, that if Rowett were to leave, he'd probably get into another Championship job tomorrow, like during the week. He would be that sought after. Have I mentioned to you before, Sam, that before I had my mind changed, before I leant more towards that, I think it's time for Rowett to go. Over the and I think that a lot of Championship fans would think this. When Des was sacked, a lot of the league was like, "What on earth are you doing?" I think that if Rowett was sacked, a lot of Championship fans would be looking at it again, saying, "What on earth are you doing?" Mm-hmm. But I think even if we're 5 points off safety and we have 2 games to go, Rowett will still be in charge because I don't think that the hierarchy generally have the balls to sack him.
Mm-hmm. So have you got a name for who you would bring in then? Because like I say, it's that's my question at the minute is if he goes, who who do you bring in? Because, like you say, the hierarchy have bought into to Rowett. You know, they Grant Ferguson had his open letter just before the Swansea game, back in Gary. So, you know, this is my question to every Ox fan. You know, and by the way, some of the names I've heard floated around: Michael Carrick, fat fucking chance.
Nope.
What were some of the other ones? Like, fucking, someone tried to throw at me, fucking, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. Are you taking the piss?
I saw that.
This is ludicrous. Like, I've said time and time again, I don't believe we're the smallest club in the division, but what we are is the least attractive option in this division at this moment, because we have the smallest budget in the division. We currently don't own our stadium, which means that we can't bring in the extra money for the budget, and there are more attractive propositions for players to come to. It doesn't matter how good the manager is. If someone looks and goes, so I've got either the chance to go for, you know, I don't know, fucking Philip Clement, Norwich City, or a consign for Oxford United. Well, at Norwich I'm going to get higher wages and also better training facilities. I'm going to go there, no matter if Norwich are still in the relegation zone.
Do you want me to throw out some names that I threw in at the in the group chat?
Come on.
Should say by the way that there were 4, and I did prefix both of them. You can attest to this, Sam. The top 2, I did say Carrick, and then those words exactly, fat fucking chance, and then I said Muscat again, fat fucking chance. So the 2 that I mentioned, one that a lot of EFL fans and Oxford fans should know, and then another one some might know but not really, but both I think fit with the ethos which I think that a lot of fans are craving after being the Oxford way of front-footed attacking football, high energy, high press.
Yeah.
So one of them that I threw out was Skubala, which I think that a lot of clubs, especially in the EFL, in League One and in the Championship, I think would be fair to say that they're keeping tabs on, that they're keeping eyes on, because of he was very highly thought of at Leeds, and what he's done at Lincoln City last season, I don't really went to plan. However, you could see that as a bit of a consolidation after an insane manager bounce and getting them into, you know, within one game of the playoffs. And at the moment, they're challenging for around a top 2 position. So, and I think that if any Oxford fan goes and watch the way that Michael Skubala likes to play, they'll think, yeah, that's what I want to watch. However, you made the point rightly, Sam, because of the way that Skubala plays and how much of a high line and how high that he presses, it does leave you very, very exposed through the spine of your team and at the back. And unfortunately, whilst that might be fun at League One level, with the current squad that we have at the moment in the Championship, that just wouldn't work. So if we were in a position where, say, we are relegated or we're getting close to relegation, and Rowett says, I've had enough, I think that, and, you know, it might be a bit of big money, because there might be an opportunity for Lincoln to go up. Have a little. I'm not saying give him the job, but I'm saying that he should be one that's in consideration. Mm-hmm. And then the second man that I touched on in the chat was a bloke called Pat Noonan. I don't think a lot of people will know this bloke, but he's currently at Cincinnati in the MLS. He's been there for about 3 years. When he went to Cincinnati, he was, he wasn't really that highly thought of, but he went there and they were finishing, I think they had one season in the playoffs, which even to get into the MLS playoffs is a piece of piss, to be honest. But he's consistently getting them in the Eastern Conference towards the top of the table, constantly getting them into what is the equivalent of divisional playoffs. He's got them consistently each year, like in the higher thresholds of XG, possession-based football. His whole philosophy and his whole enigma, his whole style of coaching really is that he's very attacking, very high pressing, very front-footed. He's very tactically adept, so he's not just sticking to one formation. He knows how to get the results depending on the game. He can be both pragmatic and be both aggressive in the same 90 minutes. And also, which I think is a big thing, which really fits into the Oxford ethos, it's that he's very big on youth development and bringing in those youth players. If you haven't had the opportunity, or you haven't, I would highly recommend to go and watch some Cincinnati highlights, especially over this past season, where they've had quite a successful season, albeit they didn't get to where they wanted to be, which is ultimately where a little club called Inter Miami got to. There, you can definitely see over the past 3 years that he's managed to make improvements. So, and I don't think it'll be long until there is a club in Europe that, you know, takes a punt, especially in England, takes a punt and tries to go down, you know, tries to evade the mockery of a Ted Lasso appointment, because I think he is definitely someone that's worth looking at.
Well, like you say, it's Celtic have taken that approach in appointing a
Wilfred Nancy.
Was it from Vancouver Whitecaps, I think?
No, it was from Columbus Crew back in. I think they won the MLS Cup in 2022. He was the first black manager, I think, to win the MLS Cup.
So it's a division that is being looked at a bit more, obviously, for the talent of both in coaching and playing. Skubala, obviously, I've seen more of Skubala's football than I have Noonan. Skubala, I think I said to you when you brought it up in the chat, is that I get strong Des Buckingham vibes with Skubala.
Yeah.
Is both want to play good attacking football, and it works in League One level. You get played through at the Championship, and with Pat Noonan, I think Pat Noonan would be an interesting appointment at the beginning of a new campaign if we're still in the division, to kind of see, okay, what's his. Let's see what a kind of fresh set of ideas can bring. I don't think it's the type of appointment. Yeah, I don't think it's the type of appointment you need in the middle of a season. You need some EFL experience. Again, I don't know who that would be in terms of, you know, if we were to get rid of Gary Rowett, you know, at the minute. You know, I've had a couple of people jokingly say to me, you know, you'll be Rowett out till we're back in National League, or so Rowett until we're back in the National League. But at the minute, you know, I'm closing in, but look, obviously the big problem is the football is diabolical. It's something we hinted at when Rowett was first appointed, is that I don't think it's appreciated just how much at Oxford United we care about the football we're playing. We want to play good football. But at the same time, you know, after Rowett was appointed, you brought up, if it gets the points on the board, then I don't care. And I think at the minute, Rowett is still around that 1.2 points per game as Oxford United manager, which keeps you in the division. Obviously, that can all change. You know, we've got Blackburn on Tuesday, who are also around us. If that game goes ahead, I mean, there's been a severe weather warning up in Blackburn, so it might get rained off again. Just touch on that for a second. It's ridiculous that you know, is it 2 or 3 games already? There might be another game has been called off due to waterlogged pitch at Championship level.
Yeah, even the road fans are saying we deserve a points deduction. We deserve forfeiting the points, and they absolutely should. Why are you in the Championship and you're not being able to have your game go ahead? Adam Cattrall, who's quite a high-profile Blackburn Rovers fan, has said there's a club down the road called Accrington Stanley. They're literally 15 minutes down the road, and they've managed to fulfil their game. This is embarrassing. And I don't think they can feel aggrieved if this time the EFL say we're going to have to award Sheffield Wednesday the 3 points. So there's me kind of hoping that we're 1-0 down and the game gets called off.
Or it's you know, 0-0, and they go, oh, you know, waterlogged pitch, Oxford probably would have won. Go, you know, and then we wouldn't have to watch us play for another 90 minutes.
No, Sam, do you know what would be sod's law? It will be about 7 o'clock or 6:30, and then they'll call the game off. They'll say, yeah, the game's been postponed.
Yeah,
that would be the most Oxford United thing to happen. Or as we said earlier, we're 2-0 up at 67 minutes and they abandon the game.
I mean, I will say that I thought we were going to have that against Swansea, because driving from here to there, it was chucking it down. Obviously, the wind as you got on the bridge, on the Thames Bridge, it was like, oh my giddy aunt doodahs. I thought this game was going to get called off by. But obviously, like we said, you know, they're a team around, so we'll probably lose that game. And then we've got Preston at the Castad, who A bit like Bristol City did last season, are kind of defying what they've been for God knows how long in this division as being a mid-table club. They're battling near the playoff positions, aren't they, Connor?
I know they're exceeding all expectations, and I really think that is down to Paul Heckingbottom, because I'm not sure about you, Sam, but I was very ignorant about them and thought that they'd be around where we are at the moment, and they have just completely surpassed everything. I think at the moment they're they're missing Osmajic, I think, at the moment, because they've hit a bit of a sticky form in their past 5 games. They've come off a 1-1 draw against Wrexham. Who have they got going in tomorrow? Let me just take a look. But I think definitely a player to look out for will be Lewis Dobbin up top. He's been in fine form this season. They've got Coventry coming up at Deepdale tomorrow. So hoping that Coventry can do a bit of do us a favour in terms of absolutely running them ragged at Deepdale.
Obviously, Jebison, I think, is on loan there as well from Bournemouth. Obviously, seemed to quite enjoy his goal against Sheffield United when they went to Deepdale. But like you say, missing Osmajic due to his racism ban, alleged racism ban. I think we still have to call it, even though he did get banned for, was it 6 or 7 games? I can't remember how long the ban was.
Yeah, I think it was like 8 games, 8 or 9 games.
So obviously, they're missing him as kind of the focal. But when you've got players like Daniel Jefferson, who, no matter the maybe motivation problems he's had in previous clubs in his career, players like that have always got an unbelievable ability about them. So we might get to this time next week, and we've lost 2 games, and then it might be start to very much turn. But like I said, knowing our luck, we'll lose to Blackburn and beat Preston.
Yeah.
Go on.
Yeah, I was just going to say, say we lose to Blackburn and then we're 2-0 down to Preston inside 30, 35 minutes, I try to think what it's going to be like inside the OX4. I don't want to think about it because it could be quite nasty.
It's to be honest, I'm surprised that it's. I think I'm losing my words here. The thing is, if you look at last season when Des was sacked, that came out of nowhere. It was kind of, I know there was a couple around me that had started to turn on Des, but obviously there were so many factors. We spoke about it at the time. Oxford boy, just won us promotion. There was so much in his favour, so it was very much a shock to the system when he got sacked. With Rowett, even though I think there is a significant section of our fan base that, because of the style of football, have always been a bit spiky towards him, even when obviously he kept us in the division. We've got some big results under Gary Rowett. That run of, I can't remember how many games it was at the start of his tenure where we didn't lose. I think there's always been in the league, that is, of course, because of fucking extra in the FA Cup. I think there's always been a portion of our fan base that have been very spiky towards him, and certainly I know around my mates, it's those people that were the first to call for him to lose his job.
Yeah, that sounds pretty familiar. It's always. Do you find it's always the same people that are very quick to make a judgment? And then it's like they're just like they have to die on their hill. Like there's no changing their mind whatsoever. There's no listening to reason. But yeah, I also get the feeling that do you sit around a lot of the old guard? Because I get the feeling that a lot of them would have felt this way towards Wilder as well. Because when I think about parallels about how bad that football was in League Two, albeit with a lower quality of players, because he couldn't spend what he wanted to do. And I guess it's the same with Rowett. He's constrained and he can't spend what he wants to be able to have an effective championship team.
Yeah, I think you're right. Because so I sit in 19, obviously around the kind of a mixture of some of the old guard and people my age and a bit younger. And there is from the older fans, or more senior fans, I should say. There is a bit more of the kind of, when we're chatting, they do mention kind of times gone by. It's a tricky one because, like I say, there are some people that will kind of get the idea in their mind and not change it. But at the same time, it's just the that, we've said time and time again, football's not good enough. We've got, it's mad to think that, almost coming up on a year, we said back when Rout was brought in that we've got certain standards of how we should play football at this club. And it's very tricky to get fans on side when we're not playing that certain way.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think that going back to the old guard, I think they still have in their heads, they still have John Aldridge, Trevor Hibbard, Ray Houghton, Jeremy Charles, and then going towards my generation. Yeah, I was going to say towards my generation, maybe, I guess, because that was 10 years ago. I guess you could say to think of Roof, Hilton, McDonald, and think about how free-flowing and how forward-attacking that was. And then even recently, again, like the one thing that you can't say about use against Robinson was that he got it in terms of attacking football that we had and what Oxford typically are. Because we're just an annoying little club in the Championship, apparently, and that's what I think that we should be.
And it's another, just, you saying that reminded me of something. Again, we said it when we did the 9 Degrees of Oxford Managers video. KR got it. Wilder got it. Des obviously, knew it. It's such a small thing, but I've said it after every single game I've come out of this season, even when we've won. Why has Gary Rout not come over to us? I know I keep repeating it on podcast after podcast, but it's such a small thing, Gary, especially after games like we had on Saturday. I know that the away end had mostly emptied by the time the players came over, but it's such a small thing, and I think, it's certainly something I've hold against Rout is the fact that it's such a small commitment we're asking for, that, you don't do small things like that. It's going to turn people on you very quickly.
I've been considering this over the past few months. You ever heard of the expression, we're giving you an opportunity? So with a manager, say for example, Des, we gave him an opportunity in English football, gave him an opportunity to take a club into the Championship.
Yeah.
Do you think that the dynamics, like the employee-employer dynamics, are a bit different in this instance? That Rowett's looking at us saying, I'm giving you an opportunity to stay in the Championship, rather than us saying to Rowett, we're giving you an opportunity to manage a Championship club. That's kind of the feeling that I'm getting. I sometimes kind of get the impression that he kind of walks around, and what I appreciate is honesty. Sometimes his shit don't stink. That he thinks that I am better than you, I am better than this club. I'm here to try and this will be one of my greatest managerial achievements. I'm here, and you need a bit of narcissism and to be a bit selfish to be successful. But it seems like he's doing it more for him than he is for the club. He's thinking that I am bigger than this club.
I think there's maybe a little bit of that. Like you say, you do need a little bit of, call it confidence in yourself, call it, narcissism, whatever term you want to use. You have to have that to be a successful manager. And look at the job he's done previously. Millwall, obviously the premium example, and his most successful example to date. Here's the thing, because I think you're right in the sense of, we mentioned it earlier in this podcast that Rowett could go and get another Championship job. There would be other clubs that would take Gary Rowett. At the same time, I do get the sense from speaking to him at the fans forum, to the way he speaks to Nathan Cooper and Jerome Sale on Radio Oxford, that he does get it, and he does. I think there is part of him that kind of revels being an underdog side to kind of come up against some of the bigger sides in the division, kind of knock a couple of their teeth out. But maybe there's also that, like you say, that he considers it. This is like we said, if you need a win, come up against Oxford in the lower half of this, maybe consider maybe a little bit of charity work. I don't know. I'm not sure whether I'm being too harsh to Rout, whether I'm being too, we can't know, what's going on in Gary's head. But there are things that he kind of says and does that kind of leave me sat in the middle on that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think, as you said earlier, there's a lot of fans that just didn't take to him straight away. And after Des, it was more of like just a straight, when you just like you fall in love with something straight away. Whereas with Rowett, it's a bit more like charm me.
Yeah, it
So,
is.
but as we said, don't see him get. We can, like me, you can want him out, but you can't see him getting sacked anytime soon. And as soon as you accept that, I think that the happier you will be, the more content and peaceful you will be.
Until you go and watch Oxford try to play football again.
Yes.
Want to cap this off by saying a couple of things. First of all, really appreciate all of interactions, views and comments and all that kind of stuff. Really appreciate that, folks. Like I say at the beginning of every episode and remind you at the end of every episode, please like, comment and subscribe. It really helps us out in the algorithm. Follow myself and follow Connor on Twitter. You can see our handles on screen now. And on behalf of Walking the London Road and the wider Oxford United fan base, we wanted to send our deepest thoughts and condolences to the family and friends of the Charlton fan who unfortunately lost their life on Saturday, which obviously led to that game being abandoned. I think there might have been a post I saw you put up, Connor, that it's a very, it's a quote that's more associated with Hillsborough, but, it's doesn't lose its power any less, is that no fan should go to the football and not come home. So very sincere, thoughts and condolences to the family of the Charlton fan who lost their life on Saturday.
Yeah, echo all you said, Sam. No, nobody should go to a football match, should go out anywhere really, and not come back home. You're gonna have to forgive me, Charlton fans. We can't remember their name, but we are sure that they were a very prominent member of the Charlton Athletic fan base, and send our condolences, and sure that he will be sorely missed.
I'd see one of the photos was him, that fan, being given an award by Nathan Jones. So very much loved member of the Charlton fan base. Like we said, rest in peace to that gentleman. Thanks for watching, folks, and we'll see you next week.